Welcome back to the show. Today we're talking about how to travel while eating intuitively, and most importantly, how to enjoy your vacation stress-free without the anxiety around food and your body. I'm so excited to talk about this topic, very timely as I return for vacation. And so let's jump into today's topic. Welcome to the Live Unrestricted podcast, a show where you'll learn how to heal your relationship with food and your body so that you can focus your time and energy on more important things like your personal growth. I'm your host, Sabrina Magna, food freedom coach, and my mission is to help make your life happier and healthier without stress, overwhelm, or guilt about food. If you love the show, please do go out and share it. And if you're looking for support with your relationship with food, details about my programs are in the show notes. Thanks for spending time with me today. Now let's jump in. Hello, how we doing? I'm sitting here on Monday morning, back to work after 2 weeks off. I was away on vacation. I went to New Orleans, Louisiana to visit one of my good friends that I met while I was living in France before the pandemic. And she lives there, and I've been wanting to go visit her, especially around Mardi Gras season with all the parades and the festivities. It was just so much fun. And it was also the first time that I took this long of a break from work since I started my business. It wasn't a complete break. I still did my client calls for my Food Freedom Academy, was still keeping up with my clients, making sure that they were supported through it all. But it was the first time that I really decided to try to disconnect as much as possible. I have been kind of in that mentality of hustle, hustle, hustle for the past couple of years. And to be able to just slow down, take some time with myself, and really just do something to enjoy myself and to take some rest was much needed. It was a little bit uncomfortable at first because I'm so used to always wanting to produce and always wanting to be productive. I'm sure that a lot of you might be able to relate. Always have a big, long to-do list, and to just take some time away, time that is not necessarily dedicated to getting things done and just to be and to enjoy myself felt really good. But I'm also really excited to be back to work. I'm excited to be releasing more podcast episodes, getting some work done for the Food Freedom Academy, and I'm really excited about the projects that are coming up in the next few months. I also have a really exciting project that should be releasing in just a couple of weeks. So stay tuned for that. I'm definitely going to keep you updated on this podcast. But that's that little snippet of update on my life. And today we are talking about how to eat intuitively and how to enjoy your vacations without anxiety and stress around food and weight gain, weight loss. Because after experiencing this vacation, really had a few aha moments. I had a lot of time to reflect on how different this experience was compared to years ago, when I would either hold myself back from traveling because of the anxiety that would come along with the thought of going off plan, or having my routine, my home cooking, my schedule be thrown off, having to eat foods that I'm not used to eating, not necessarily having full control over what's going into my food, being afraid of what eating differently would do to my body. I mean, if I were to rewind a couple of years when I was struggling with my relationship with food, with disordered eating, especially when I was at the worst of my eating disorder and struggling with orthorexia, not only did traveling make me nervous and anxious, but I just didn't do it because I knew that it would come along with more negative emotions and experiences than positive. And it's really sad to think about, because life and traveling is about living. It's about experiencing different cultures, different foods, different environments. And when I hit my diet rock bottom, that moment when I decided I cannot keep living this way, feeling obsessed with food, a lot of it was revolving around traveling, because I'm someone who, when I looked at my future and the kind of life I wanted to live, a big part of that was traveling. I wanted to experience those different cultures and put myself in different environments and see new countries. But at the same time, back then, when I thought about traveling, something that should be fun and enjoyable, I didn't experience positive feelings. I experienced stress and anxiety. And I realized if I actually want to live the kind of life that I have envisioned for myself, how am I possibly going to do that if I'm afraid of eating out at a restaurant, if I'm afraid of eating carbs, if I'm afraid of being out of my environment or going out spontaneously for ice cream or for something I hadn't planned? And if you haven't listened to the very first episode of this podcast, where I talk about kind of my origin story and how I got from where I was, which was years and years of disordered eating, food anxiety, an eating disorder, body dysmorphia, to where I am now, which is having complete freedom around food and becoming a food freedom and intuitive eating coach to help other women who struggle with their relationship with food. I talk about that push to travel and that push to do something that made me extremely uncomfortable at the time, which was go to Italy, a land of carbs and cheese and desserts, and to expose myself to discomfort and to unease around these foods that I not only was not used to eating, but I was terrified of eating. So I do recommend going back to that episode 1 if you are new to the podcast, to listen to that story and to hear some of the steps and the mindset shifts I had to take in order to start healing and pushing myself out of my comfort zone. But as I was traveling on this trip, it was just a completely different experience. And it's not the first time that I have traveled since healing my relationship with food. But this time I really took some time to journal throughout it all. And I also had the podcast and my clients in the back of my mind to be able to give you some advice, some mindsets that I take with me when I travel. And not only when I travel, this could apply to how to handle holidays when there's foods that make you a little bit more nervous, where this is a time that could trigger some anxiety around weight loss, weight gain, binging, emotional eating, all of that baggage that comes with stepping out of your regular routine. And especially if you're dieting, that fear of going quote unquote off plan. So this episode is for you if traveling makes you anxious because you're breaking your normal eating routine and schedule. If you're a chronic dieter and you are used to having very rigid rules and restrictions about what you can or can't eat, and it's very difficult to stick to that when you're traveling, of course, because there's a lot of unplanned dinner dates and you don't have full control over what you're eating all the time. And that could trigger some anxiety within you. If you have an all or nothing mentality, so you are constantly on or off the wagon, you struggle with consistency, which means that maybe leading up to a trip, you're going to restrict, you're going to quote unquote be good to allow yourself to go completely off the rails on your trip. You end up eating without rules, without restraints, in a way that doesn't feel super good for your body. And then you come back for your vacation and you vow to do a crash diet to either punish yourself or compensate for how you ate on vacation. And finally, this is a very valuable episode for you if you feel like the fear of weight gain or just how you feel about your body stops you from fully enjoying vacation. So especially if you're going somewhere hot, you might be wearing things that make you more uncomfortable, whether that's shorts, tank tops, bikinis. You're wearing some of your summer clothes that you haven't worn all winter. That was my case, which we'll talk about how to handle body image and your self-talk while on vacation. So if you feel like the way that you feel about your body stops you from fully being present and enjoying your vacations, then this episode is going to be really, really helpful for you. And I wanted to dedicate an episode to this because this is something that many of my clients struggle with. And also because vacations are supposed to be fun and relaxed. There's supposed to be an opportunity to enjoy much needed rest, time away from your normal routine and your responsibilities. But what happens when you have a difficult relationship with food is that instead of it being enjoyable, traveling can come along with major anxiety around food. In a perfect world, eating would never be associated with guilt, and vacations would be purely enjoyed. Or, disregard the exhaustion that comes along with traveling and maybe the lack of sleep. But other than that, when we're talking about food, it should be a time to try new foods that you might not be able to get back home, experience different cultures, or even when you're not doing something that involves food, being able to be fully present with the experience without having worries about what you ate or how it's going to affect your weight or what you're going to eat in the back of your mind all the time. Unfortunately, we don't live in that perfect world. We live in a diet culture filled world that convinces you that your life purpose revolves around losing weight and keeping it off. And along with that messaging comes unrealistic rules around eating that are basically set up to fail. And as a result, people stop living. Everything becomes about weight loss and about micromanaging our food. And it's truly very hard to fully experience life and all of the beauties that come along with life, like traveling and spontaneous experiences, when 99% of your brain space is consumed with these negative and anxious thoughts about food in your body. Now, of course, in order to truly change your experience around traveling, then it takes a full rewiring in your brain around the way that you think about food, the way that you experience body image. But today I'm going to talk about 6 things, 6 tips, mindset shifts that allow me to go on vacation without any food or body anxiety. And these are things that, like I said, you'll be able to carry over with you in your daily life. And there's a few more that we cover in my group coaching program, the Food Freedom Academy. But in the spirit of the time that we have together today, I'm going to give you my 6 favorite ones. And so what I encourage you to do is, if you are walking or driving or doing something else, multitasking, then come back to me. Really pay attention. It's very hard to absorb everything that you're going to learn in this podcast and to remember it when you're doing other things. So if you can, really come back to me, give it your whole attention, and as much as possible, take some notes. So if you can take out a pen and a piece of paper, number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm also going to give a bonus one at the end, spoiler alert. So stick around till the end to get that bonus tip. So you'll want to take some notes on a piece of paper, notepad, or open the notes app on your phone if you're doing something else, to write down at least some key points. Right now, I'm reading a book. It's called Limitless by Jim Quick, and it's about how to unlock the power of your brain, how to learn faster, how to learn better. And one of the things he teaches you about how to retain information better is, as you are reading a book, listening to a podcast, any kind of learning opportunity, you want to ask yourself 3 questions with every new piece of information, which is, number 1, how can I use this? Number 2, why must I use this? And number 3, when will I use this? So you can actually write those 3 questions down at the top of your notes app or your piece of paper so that you can retain this information better. And when you actually implement what I'm going to teach you, some of the things that you can experience are really magical, because you'll be able to be more present with your family, your friends, your loved ones while you're on vacation. You'll experience a lot more joy and a lot more fulfillment, because instead of living in your head, you'll be living the experiences. I had 2 of my clients who are part of the academy who are recently have been on vacation. And one of them, she posted in our Facebook group as a win, #win. I was away a week ago and I wasn't obsessed with food and didn't diet after. I think it's the first time in about 35 years. And another one was heading on vacation. And she said, as I'm sitting in the airport about to leave on my vacation, I'm going to listen to my body and take a step back and decide what I really want. I'm going to relax and enjoy some time in the sun and some me time. And for me, this is something that's really important to talk about because I always look at my life from the lens of me 20, 30, 40 years from now, or when I'm 80 years old and looking back on my life and looking back on the choices I made and the experiences I had or didn't have. And I know that when I look back on my life, I will look back on the vacations that I took thinking about the amazing experiences I had, the great food that I got to taste, and not the size of my jeans at that time or how I looked. It's going to be about how you felt, because no one in your life is in your life because of how you look. No one loves you because of the number on the scale. People love you for how you show up in the world, how you make them feel, and you cannot properly show up in the world as your authentic self when, again, you have this massive weight on your shoulders that is this constant anxiety around food in your body. So I'm going to talk about those 6 things. Again, there's a lot more that I could dive into, and maybe I'll do a part 2, but I'm going to talk about my 6 most important ones. So the number one thing that you want to make sure to avoid doing leading up to a trip is to restrict. It is to have this mentality of, I'm going to be quote unquote good, eat only the healthy foods and not eat carbs and not eat sugar. And a lot of people have that mentality for a few reasons. Number one is people want to lose weight leading up to a trip because they want to feel good. They want to feel confident. It's like this crash diet so that they can go and wear that clothes and feel confident. Or number 2 is I'm really going to restrict and, like I said, be good so that when I'm on my trip, I can allow myself to have these bad foods and indulge without the guilt because I deserved it. And really all that does is it sets you up for overeating and more food guilt and more food obsession on your vacation. The way I describe it to my clients is I want you to imagine a bow and arrow. And every time this craving comes up, leading up to your trip, maybe you want cookies or someone brings a birthday cake to work and you tell yourself, no, I can't do it because I'm going on vacation. I need to lose weight or I need to be good until then. You pull that arrow a little bit back. And then another craving comes up and you pull it back. And every time you deny yourself of something you want, you pull it back and create tension inside of you. It's this deprivation that builds up. It builds up, it builds up, it builds up until eventually you're going to go on your trip and you're going to have built up so much tension, so much deprivation that you're not just going to eat, in a way that feels good for your body, allow yourself to enjoy food. You're going to overindulge. You're going to give your body more than it needs because there is this mentality of I'm on vacation now. I can eat all of these foods. And that's when that switch goes off in your mind, where it's that all or nothing mentality. I can break all of my rules because I've been so good. And so you end up enjoying food, which I absolutely encourage, but you end up bypassing what your body is telling you. It is very hard to just listen to your hunger and honor your fullness in those moments because it's not about feeling good anymore. It's about how do I get as much of these unhealthy foods into my body during this 1 week period, 2-week period before I get back on track when I get back. And so you end up setting yourself up for not feeling great physically because you eat all of these foods and you're no longer paying attention to what you really want, what you're really craving. You're just thinking that you've got to get as much of these foods in as possible, sometimes even eating food that you don't necessarily enjoy because this is your time where all bets are off. all rules go out the window. And as a result, the guilt comes in because overeating just really does not feel great. And then the shame comes in, and you set yourself up for, by the end of your trip, feeling bloated, feeling lethargic, feeling that need to go back to restricting when you get back. So the first thing you want to make sure that you do in order to be able to just enjoy your trip and listen to your body, eat in a way that feels good, enjoy food, is to make sure that you don't restrict leading up to it. The second piece of advice that I have for you to ensure that you don't feel out of control around food while you're on vacation and you're able to be mindful and choose the foods that you really want to eat and to experience the taste and the flavors and really be present with it, is to eat consistently throughout the day. Now, when you're on vacation, your schedule, your eating routine does get thrown off. Sometimes you end up having a bigger breakfast than you normally would. You skip some meals, you skip some snacks, or you're going out for dinner and that diet mentality kicks in of, I'm just going to skip my afternoon snack or have less food throughout the day, save up my calories. If you can't see me, but I'm doing big quotation marks with my hands, save up my calories for later so that I can really have the thing that I want and enjoy it and not feel bad about it. And all that really does is it sets you up for that out of control eating, along with obsessive thoughts about food, because your body is extremely smart. And when it's not getting what it needs, the energy that it needs, it's going to send you warning signals and messages saying, hey, I need some food. I haven't been getting what I need, in the form of excessive and obsessive thoughts about food. So of course, if you're saving up your calories all day, you're not going to be able to focus on anything else. You're going to be sightseeing, walking around, but your body is desperately trying to get you to eat. So you're going to be thinking about your meal and you're not going to be able to be present. It's as if you hold your pee in for hours and you just don't allow yourself to empty it out. Then it gets to a point where that's all you can think about, right? You see water dripping and you see someone drinking water and all you can think about is how much you need to find a bathroom. Same goes for your eating. So you want to make sure that even though your routine gets thrown off, that you're eating consistently throughout the day. And that brings me to tip number 3, which is bring snacks. One thing I talk about with my clients in the academy is the concept of emergency snacks, which I love. But when you're traveling, a lot of the money that you end up spending is going to be on food. And it's easy when you're walking around or you get that little hunger pang mid-afternoon, you just think, okay, well, I'm going to be going out for food later, so I'll just hold it until then. And again, this brings us back to making sure that you eat consistently throughout the day. If you deny your hunger, then those thoughts and that hunger is just going to get more and more intense. And when you get to that dinner time, it's going to be really hard to be mindful and to feel peaceful and relaxed around eating because your body just needs that food. And so I just went on my trip, and one thing I did is I brought a whole bunch of snacks. I brought protein bars, nuts, some little carry-on energy ball things. And what that does is, I was having a bigger breakfast, I was having lunch, but midday, if I found myself getting hungry, which I tend to do every 2 or 3 hours when I'm back home, I would have that protein bar or that piece of fruit or those nuts to make sure that I don't get to that extreme hunger. We talk about the hunger scale in detail in the program, but we want to avoid getting to that insane, extreme, intense hunger. It's called primal hunger, where all you can think about is getting your hands on food. It doesn't matter what kind of food, because when you get to that 1 or 2 on the hunger scale, which is that very, very low end, you're going to end up rebounding completely on the other side to that 9 or 10 on the hunger scale, which is that overeating, stuffed, uncomfortable feeling, so uncomfortable that you just got to unbutton your pants. So bring snacks. It is something that is so easy to do, making sure that there's snacks that are easy to carry, filling, and are going to satisfy that biological hunger that you're feeling. I understand that when you're traveling, you want to save up those eating experiences for those special occasions when you're going out to eat. But there's going to be plenty of times for you to experience those foods and to eat consistently, and having those snacks throughout the day is actually going to allow you to have a better experience when you go out for food. Enjoy the things that you really want to eat, be present, not stuffing down in 2 seconds. And you're going to feel better at the end of the day, having given your body the fuel that it needs. Now, in the same realm, we want to talk about gentle nutrition. So that is tip number 4, which is to implement gentle nutrition. If you are new to intuitive eating, you may have never heard this term before. This is one of the main topics that we talk about in the academy. However, it is one of the last topics that we talk about, because in the 12-step process that I have, there's a lot more steps that need to be addressed, like making peace with food, learning how to listen to your body, rejecting the diet mentality, looking at all of the mindset and rewiring your brain around food and your past with dieting. All of that needs to come before we can start talking about gentle nutrition, because it is very easy to use gentle nutrition as a diet, as a new set of rules, if you haven't done that healing work beforehand. But implementing gentle nutrition is using that knowledge around what makes your body feel good, what fuels it, what keeps you satisfied for longer, to feel better on vacation. So to give you an example, let's say you're traveling in France, that crepe with Nutella might sound delicious for breakfast, but there's a good chance that it's not going to be the most long-lasting energy, the most balanced energy. And so how can I implement gentle nutrition? By maybe adding some protein next to it, some ham, some eggs, some meat, some yogurt. How could I get some healthy fats in there, whether that's peanut butter or nuts or avocado or olives? Looking at trying to get more of a balance around your meals, because of course, when you're traveling, your meals are going to look different. You're going to have a little bit more snacky foods. And so I'll give you an example. When I was in New Orleans, they have this traditional pastry called beignet, and it is just this like fried dough dipped in so much powdered sugar. It is absolutely phenomenal, and you drink that with a side of café au lait. And so I was so looking forward to having this snack. And I had it on this one day where I had been walking around all day. It was hot outside. And when I made that choice, I was in a park. They had it at this well-known cafe called Café du Monde. So I decided to have it that day. And I was genuinely hungry. And I knew that having this treat, this pastry, wasn't necessarily going to be the most filling meal. It was going to be delicious and I was going to enjoy every single bite, but I would probably end up being hungry 30 minutes later. And if I ate it just by itself, I would probably experience a sugar crash. And when you're traveling, it's about enjoying the local food, enjoying the experiences. But for me, I also want to make sure that I feel good, because you're doing a lot. You're walking around, you're doing activities, and I don't want to feel sluggish or bloated or feeling like my body is lacking the energy it needs to do all these experiences and to really have fun with them. And so in that moment, I decided they give it in these packs of 3 beignets. And so I decided to have the one, see how I felt after, and to pair it with, I think I brought protein bar. I think I brought a protein bar. I brought nuts. And so I had the one. I enjoyed every single bite. But I also, after having that one and reevaluating how I felt, decided to save the two other ones for later and to have a protein bar instead. So I had my amazing pastry. I had my protein bar. I felt satisfied. I felt like my body got the energy that it needed. Oh, and I also decided, so normally I drink black coffee just because I enjoy it better, but the classic combination there is to eat your beignet with a coffee that is half coffee, half milk. And I made that decision to do it like the locals, and also knew that having that half coffee, half milk would give me some of that protein and some of that fat as well, make that whole meal, well, it was more of a snack, made that snack more filling and satisfying. So I did that as well. Another example of implementing gentle nutrition is I had breakfast at home most mornings, just because when I look at my food experiences, I really prefer eating out at lunch and at dinner. I don't care so much for breakfast food, and it's not that important to me. So sitting at home, having a nice filling breakfast. So I had my classic breakfast, which is toast with peanut butter and bananas, and then some side of protein. So whether that was a protein bar, a Greek yogurt, a protein shake, to make sure that I was really setting myself up with the energy and the fuel that I needed. Because if I started with this really tiny breakfast, again, with that mentality of saving up my calories for later, then I would leave the house and already be thinking about food, already be thinking about what's the next thing I'm going to eat. And instead, when I have that fuel and that need met, I can go on and focus on other things like the activities that I'm doing, what I want to visit. So when you're traveling, it is absolutely possible to enjoy all of the local delicacies, to enjoy the treats, while also feeling good in your body. And that in turn is going to help you not only have the energy, but also have the mental space to really be present. My tip number 5 is one of my favorites, which is to zoom out. So what do I mean by that? This is something I talk about with my clients all the time. One thing that diet culture does really well is it makes you obsess over the tiny little details. It makes you zoom in on every single decision you make around food and to micro obsess over what you're eating. So we are taught that if you have 13 almonds instead of 10, you've done something wrong. I've had people reach out to me and ask me about the cream in their coffee, and if having cream in their coffee in the morning is going to make them gain weight or make them unhealthy. We think in terms of like these micro decisions and think that such small, insignificant things are going to affect our health and our weight. And that's really just not the case. And most of the time, the best thing that you can do for yourself is to, number one, relax around all of these tiny details that really don't matter much in the grand scheme of things, and to zoom out. So what I mean by that is when we're on vacation, it's easy to think about, oh my God, I haven't had any vegetables today, or over the span of a week, I've had so many unhealthy foods, especially when I was traveling. I mean, I was eating fried food. I was eating very little vegetables, and I was eating in a way that I normally don't eat at home. Personally, at home, I love vegetables. I honestly really love meal planning. I love cooking at home. I love having balanced meals just because it makes me feel good. And when I was traveling, I was eating differently than I normally would have, but also because I wanted to experience all the local foods. I wanted to really experience the food culture, especially in Louisiana, New Orleans especially. Like, they are known for their food culture. And I know that back in the day when I was struggling with my relationship with food, I would have been so anxious about the fact that most of my meals did not have a side of vegetables, and that I wasn't having fruits and that they weren't always balanced. I mean, there was one day where I had just like all of these different fried foods from this place called Billy's in Lafayette, which is a city a little bit north of New Orleans, I believe. And it was far from balanced. And when we focus so much on the one meal or the one day or the 1 week of eating, it's so easy to spiral down into this anxious mess about how that's going to affect our health. And so the way that I was describing it to one of my clients is you have on an average, you'll eat 3 meals a day, 7 days a week. That's 21 meals a week. Take that and times it by 52, and that's 1,092 meals a year. If you're listening, if you're part of my audience, most of the women I work with are between 30 and 50 years old. We're going to say on average, you have at least 30 more years on this planet. So if we do 1,092 times 30, you have 32,760 meals left to your life. So when you get in that anxious, stressed out mode, thinking that one meal, one day, 1 week of eating is going to ruin your health, I want you to remember how many more meals you're going to eat in your life. And that 1 week without eating as many vegetables or as fruits as you'd like is not going to make or break you. And as long as you're eating in a way that feels good, and yes, maybe you'll have meals that are going to be more dense, more fried, less balanced. You might feel it in your body afterwards. I definitely felt a little bit more bloated, retaining a little bit more water because of the sodium. But overall, I was still able to listen to my body, to stop eating when I was comfortable, when I was satisfied, when I was full. I never overate, never ate to a point of discomfort or pain because I've done that work to, work on my mindset around food and listen to my body. But you have at least 30,000 more meals in your life. And so 1 day, 1 week, 1 month of eating is not going to ruin you. So zoom out instead of zooming in and micro obsessing over those small details. And tip number 6 is to learn how to talk to yourself. This is something I talk about time and time again because the way that you talk to yourself is going to dictate, number one, how you feel throughout the day, how you feel about yourself, how you show up in the world, and it's going to dictate your behaviors. So I will give you an example. When I was packing for my trip, I packed a bunch of summer clothes that I haven't worn since last summer. And most of it I didn't try on before packing it in my suitcase, but I made sure to bring some loose clothes, some comfortable clothes. I don't want to be wearing some tight shorts that barely fit me as I'm walking around feeling uncomfortable, feeling it tight on my thighs, because of course, all you're going to be able to think about is your body. And when you feel uncomfortable in your body, the first thing you're going to want to do is restrict your food intake because you feel like that's the only thing that you can control. And we think that by restricting our food intake, it's going to change our bodies. So I made sure to bring some loose, comfortable clothes that I knew I would feel cute in, I would feel comfortable in. And one of the days I was about to head out, I was about to put on this pair of black shorts that I bought last summer. These like really nice flowy black shorts that were, super comfortable, loose last summer. And as I was putting them on, they actually didn't fit. I couldn't get them up my bum, up my thighs. And in the past, trust me, that would have been such a trigger. And I would have been in a bad mood all day. I would have thought about it all day. And I would have made it mean something about me, about, oh my God, Sabrina, you have let yourself go this winter. You have gained so much weight. And I mean, I haven't weighed myself all winter. I haven't weighed myself in over 4 years. I have no idea what I weigh. But I do know that in the past couple of months, as winter has been rolling around, I feel a little bit more snug in my clothes. And again, that would have been a huge trigger for me. in the past, but now I'm able to just look at it as what it is. It's Montreal winter here. There is less opportunities to move around. You're going out for food more as activities, like you're going out to restaurants more because that's all there is to do. There's no like picnicking outside. There's no going for bike rides. There's there's just less opportunity for moving. And so I was able to look at it as it is, as, you know what, maybe every winter I am going to gain a couple of winter pounds, and that's 100% okay. And maybe I'll be able to fit those shorts once summer comes around, maybe not. But why would I let this one pair of shorts that doesn't fit me anymore dictate how I'm going to feel today, dictate how I'm going to feel about my body, and why would I try to fit into clothes that really just doesn't make me feel good? So I immediately took those shorts off, put on another pair of shorts I knew would fit, I knew are loose, that make me feel good, and that was it. And in the past, I would have let that one incident ruin how I feel about myself, and I would have made it mean something about me. And we have a full module on body image, because the way that you talk to yourself and the way that you think about your body is going to have a massive impact on not only your habits, because when you loathe yourself, when you don't think that you deserve self-care, self-love, compassion, you're less likely to be consistent with self-care habits like exercise and like eating well, but also because you'll never be able to have a healthy relationship with food in your body, to be present in your life, to fully engage in activities when everything revolves around the number on the scale and the way that you think about your body. So learning to talk about yourself and learning to talk to yourself is huge, not only while you're on vacation, but in everyday life. And as I'm wrapping up, I'm going to give you one more bonus tip. I hope that you've been writing all of these down, but the last bonus tip is number 7. Don't plan to diet when you get back. Because if you have this mindset that all of these fun foods are going away, are going to get restricted, limited, cut back on when you come back from vacation, then your brain is going to think, I need to eat as much food as possible during this trip. I need to stock up because I don't know when's the next time I'm going to be able to have this food. And so you're going to end up overeating, feeling a lot of guilt and regret at the end of your trip. You're not going to feel great in your body because you're not going to respect your fullness. Again, your body just wants to stock up on all these things that it thinks it's going to miss out on. It's this phenomenon called the Last Supper mentality. It's the Last Supper, so I have to get all these foods in. And so please, 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 if you want to enjoy your vacation, if you want to feel good, again, it's about feeling good. It's about having that energy, having that mental space, enjoying yourself. Then we need to drop the crash diets when we get back. For my client, it was unusual to come back and just go back to regular eating, to have a piece of pizza on a Tuesday, or to have cake and candy, things that normally she would have cut out after a trip. It was unusual to come back from a trip and not feel like she gained 20 pounds, to have eaten in a way that felt good, to honor her body, to honor her wants. And that right there is how you ensure consistency, moderation, and balance, because there's always going to be something that comes up. If it's not a vacation, it's a holiday, it's a birthday party, it's a work party. There's always going to be that thing that is going to make you want to restrict leading up to it, binge while you're at it, and then restrict afterwards. And that just sets you up for a lifetime of that roller coaster. And so you want to just maintain that consistent eating, allow yourself to just go back to having a wide variety of food and getting rid of that crash dieting. So those are the 7, so 6 tips plus a bonus. So I'm going to recap them. So number 1 is don't restrict leading up to a trip. Number 2 is eating consistently throughout the day. Number 3, in relation to that, is bringing snacks with you. Number 4 is implementing gentle nutrition. Number 5, zooming out. Number 6, learning how to talk to yourself. And bonus tip, don't plan to crash diet when you get back. So those are some of the things that I've changed in the way that I approach traveling ever since healing my relationship with food and my body, which I can honestly say have completely transformed my experience. I remember when I went to Italy on that life-changing trip a couple of years ago. For the first couple of weeks, I remember seeing these amazing sights and having these meals and these experiences and feeling dead inside and feeling and thinking, is this all there is? You know, when I think of going to Italy, I thought I would feel something. I thought I would feel differently. But because I still was in this mindset, obsessed with food and my body, I couldn't truly experience the beauty of it. I couldn't truly experience 100% of it. And I really do wish that I could go back on that trip with this new mindset that I have now. And I actually do plan on going back on that trip in hopefully October of this year, 2023, going back to Italy with this new set of eyes. And I will definitely be implementing some of those things that we talked about today. So I hope that this was helpful. If it was, let me know on Instagram. Send me a DM, Sabrina Magnan Health. And if you want to learn more about how you can get in touch with me, work with me, if you struggle with this anxiety around food, if you want to be able to go on vacation and fully experience life without these constant obsessive thoughts, then you can find some information at sabrinamagnan.com/academy. The doors are currently closed. However, we've had quite a few people reach out, already joining the wait list so that they save their spots when the doors open again, which is most likely going to be in May. So if you want to learn more about how you can save your spot, how you can reach out to me, because spots will be limited, you can head to sabrinamagnan.com/academy. The link is in my show notes. Thank you so much for listening today, and I cannot wait to see you on next week's episode. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. If you found it valuable, I would love if you would share it with someone you know that could benefit. If you're loving the show, don't forget to subscribe over on Apple Podcasts so you don't miss a single episode. I really love hearing feedback from you, so please leave a rating and review over on Apple to help us get in the ears of more people who need it the most. Finally, come hang out with me on Instagram at Sabrina Magnan Health for more educational content and get up close and personal with me. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you on the next episode. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. If you found it valuable, I would love if you would share it with someone you know that could benefit. If you're loving the show, don't forget to subscribe over on Apple Podcasts so you don't miss a single episode. I really love hearing feedback from you, so please leave a rating and review over on Apple to help us get in the ears of more people who need it the most. Finally, come hang out with me on Instagram at Sabrina Magnan Health for more educational content and get up close and personal with me. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you on the next episode.